like we're live, Bill. Hello, I'm Dave Beavers,
And I'm Bill Kraft.
and together we are Giant Slayer Consultants. And it's our pleasure and our honor to offer this free Thursday training at noon each week. And as we promised, we were going to go back through the 21 Laws of Leadership. And this week we're kicking back off on lesson number 1. We're going to go through this for 21 weeks because we think it's important enough for everybody to grasp these principles so we can improve our own lives, increase our influence, and help other people live their lives. Bill, rather than go back through the 21 laws specifically as a review, why don't you share with the audience a couple things that really stood out to you, a couple of these principles?
Well, one is the law of process. I think it's really important to understand that, our leadership, our ability, our skills, they aren't built in a day. It's not an event. It's a day-to-day process, and add a little bit every day.
Yeah.
And we've got to be intentional about adding that, or we'll miss those days. And the more we miss, the longer that adds up. And the other is the law of, the law of addition,
Yeah.
where leaders add value by adding value to others.
Yeah.
And it's back to the Zig Ziglar quote that you like, that help enough people to get what they want, and you'll get what you want.
Yeah, and it's what it's all about, and we don't do it to manipulate them.
No, we don't do it to manipulate. It's got to be sincere. It's not going to work.
It's a heart issue,
It is.
And not everybody starts out with the right heart. Sometimes we wait around till our motives get pure and we don't move forward. And the thing I like about practicing these principles is, we eventually begin to care more about people. Our heart begins to get more pure in the process, and the process. You talk about the law process. Too many times we go with this thought that I'm not a leader, that I'm not a natural born leader. And leaders are not born. Everybody's born. Leaders are developed. Now,
You may not be able to do something, but you can do part of something.
Yeah.
And doing part of something, it builds on that. So you're able eventually to be able to do that.
Exactly. So, there are folks who have a more of a tendency to want to lead, but that doesn't necessarily make them good leaders, good influencers, and that comes back to the process. So we got to purify motives, develop skills and talents, because and those are basically talking about our soft skills. We talk about hard skills and learning how to do specific tasks and duties, but our soft skills are going to help us become more effective, and that's what this teaching is going to help us to learn to do and do better, is develop our skills, people skills. Well, Bill, I forget how we said we was going to kick this off, but I think tell us what John says about the law of the lid.
Well, the law of the lid says that leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. And he's just telling us that, no matter how much we want to do something or how hard we try at it, if we don't increase our leadership ability, our effectiveness is going to be stymied by that lack of development of leadership ability.
And that's exactly true. And, if you go to my website, GiantSlayerConsultants.com, again, that's GiantSlayerConsultants.com, and click on the resource, on the resource tab, you'll go down and find out there's a free resource page where you can download this PowerPoint that we use each week. It's an outline for each lesson. It's not a substitute for reading the book or practicing it, but it's a start. So in the very first page of that resource, I've got a 5-level leadership model here. And it goes from position, which is if we have positional leadership, and more of us have positional leadership than we think. When we're a parent, we're a leader by default. Good or bad, we're a leader. If we're operating on a team, sometimes we get the position inherited or promoted into it, and it becomes a position. But we never want to stick to level 1 leadership with just position out of title. You do what I tell you to do. You have to do what I tell you to do because I'm the boss. We can start out that way, and most of us start out that way. But we want to become a better leader, so we go to the second level. We seek to get permission from those who lead. And it's not that we go ask someone, would you let me lead you? It's when they begin to trust us, and their intuition and our intuition comes together, and they know that we care about them when we're trying to help them succeed. They start to give us permission to lead. They start to ask for our advice. They start to want to be more of a part of the leadership team and part of the team itself. So level 2 is permission. Level 3 is production. And this is when the team and the leader are working in conjunction to produce good results. Well, not necessarily good results, but results.
Good result.
But the goal is to have good results. So if the results are good, that leader that's leading that team has influence across with his peers, his or her peers, with the team that they're leading, and also from the leadership above them, because they're noticing the results and they get respect out of that. Now, most folks get stuck there. They get stuck on that production level because they get addicted to the production and to those good results, and they don't start to think ahead about how they're going to continue this off into the future, because things change. People leave the team, products change, competition changes, rules and laws change, and if we're not having a system in place to develop future leaders to come up with us and help us lead, then we're not getting to level 4, which is people development. People development is critical for any team. Think about it right now. If you're a leader, if you have an influence where you're mentoring or teaching or helping someone, you're a leader. Now think about a year down the road. Think about 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, if you have to step out of the scene. Are your good results going to be continued on? Are they going to be sustainable? If we don't have people in place to continue those results, it's not sustainable. And you take those results with you. Now, that's a bad place to be. Now, people who are highly addicted to good results sometimes subconsciously set the team up to fail because their ego doesn't want to raise people up, because they want to know that they couldn't do it without them. And so they sabotage the team. That's a bad way to operate.
And it could be their insecurity.
It is actually driven from that insecurity. Yeah. When we can't give power away to those that we're leading and empower them, we hold on to it. We're sabotaging the team, and we're sabotaging ourselves, because we may go out with those good results, but if we leave the team without a way to continue on and improve, we've failed the team, and that's the ultimate sign of failure. It's not having a successor in place to take your lead and to do as good or better than you. Now that takes us to level 5, and which is, John Maxwell calls it the pinnacle. We call it the personhood. When this person leads out of total, complete respect, and this is when they've equipped enough people, lifted enough leaders up, that those leaders remember that leader and becomes like a sensei or a guru to that person, because they can depend on that person, because they know that person has their success in mind. And it's not about the top leader's success, but that top leader has everyone's success in mind, and that's a person who leads out of respect. So that's the 5 levels of leadership, and that's a whole nother training, but that's a little quick overview for it. Bill, just remind the audience about how we're going to go through this learning process.
Okay, and the learning process is 3 phases. First, we learn the law, and that's learning what is the law, how does it affect our leadership, how does it affect our organization, and then we learn how to lead the law, and that's how do we show other people, how do we demonstrate, how do we role model that law, and then it's leading other people to the law. How do we actually empower? You used that word earlier. Empower other people to use law in not only in our organization with us, but also in their lives and in their endeavors.
So that's 3 phases. We're going to learn about it. We're going to talk about ways to live it out.
Living out.
And the third one is lead others through it, and that's through example, through mentoring, and through teaching. So 3-phase process in everything we do, and that's what this training and teaching is how it's set up for us to do. So this week's lesson is the law of the lid. Bill, what does John say about learning the law of the lid?
Well, he says your leadership ability is like a lid or a ceiling in your organization. I think we might have mentioned that earlier. But, if you can have an effective and competent person, but if they don't have the leadership ability, well, they could be dedicated and they could be competent in the task, but they're not going to be real effective in the organization if they don't have leadership ability. And so someone with the same skill and ability who has greater leadership ability, they're going to geometrically increase the effectiveness of that position.
That's exactly right. And a lot of folks, I've involved with a lot of people who had great character, were hard workers, were very good at what they did, and somewhat they were a leader because they set the example. But sometimes some of those folks didn't take the time to develop people skills and understand the importance of passing the baton on someone else and helping them become a leader so they can get more done.
They're stuck at living the law.
They were stuck at living it out. They were successful, probably more productive than anybody else that was on the team, but they didn't multiply that out. And then guess what? When that person wasn't at work, the whole team suffered. Oh my, where's he at? Where's he at? We need him, because this person what I'm thinking about in particular was a good friend of mine. His name was Greg Belcher. And this guy could do 3 or 4 times the work of most people. And he did it so smoothly and effectively. But it took him a long time to grasp the fact that he's got to multiply that because he was getting older. And when he wasn't around, which wasn't very often, but when he wasn't around, the rest of the team suffered. So he finally began to pour himself into other people, and it took some effort on his part and conscious awareness to know that it was so important to raise up other people with him because he couldn't do it all. I could see him getting tired. And so he finally, being tired and being frustrated when he came back from vacation or days off, finally got his attention that he's going to have to develop some people. So that's how it happens. But if we don't embrace that, we can wear ourselves out.
We can.
And we can get stuck. So learning it means our leadership ability is like a lid on the organization. That's what it looks like right here. Here you are.
Yeah.
Here's the team. The organization cannot go farther than that main leader. And if that main leader isn't growing, guess what? They're stuck. And they either do this, they'll settle back down. Or if you have some strong leaders in there, they'll do this. And they'll go around you. They'll leave you. And so we don't want that, do we?
No.
So it means as a leader, as a parent, as a coach, as a teacher, as a trainer, as a business owner, as a manager, as a politician, as a government official, we should always be striving to grow, shouldn't we? And so how much can we increase our effectiveness, Bill, by developing a team?
Well, like I say, it's geometrical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, geometric. And what that's saying is we can increase our effectiveness, say, threefold. Well, that could increase our effectiveness or our leadership ability. I'm sorry. We increase that threefold. We can increase the effectiveness of the team ninefold or more.
Yeah, and John says that just by beginning the process, we can increase our effectiveness as a leader by 600%. And that's a number that he's pulled out through research, but it's really true. If I determine that if I'm a leader of an organization and I come to you and Bill and say, I want to raise you up and help you become a leader, but I need you to understand that I'm raising you up to be a leader developer. It starts to multiply pretty quick, doesn't it?
It does.
So I'm letting you know that I'm going to train you so you can train someone else. So that's how you're talking about that rapid expansion. It starts out slow.
It does.
But it really takes off fast. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about learning the law of the lid, Bill?
Okay, well, if your leadership ability and effectiveness is a 5, your team organization or your team or organization's effectiveness can only get up to that 5. So, if you want to raise, if you want to increase the team's effectiveness, you've got to be the change to begin with. And, to raise that team's effectiveness, you must raise your leadership ability and effectiveness. And if not, others that want to go higher than you will go around you, like you said, or they'll leave you. And the organization may grow in ways that you didn't intend. So we need to be conscious as individuals about increasing our effectiveness and our ability to lead others, so that the whole team and organization can be affected by that.
Right.
And a good example of that was McDonald's brothers. And we
I
all
think
know
everybody's heard about McDonald's.
we know about McDonald's now as a hamburger chain that's worldwide. Well, back when it was first starting, there was just a couple stores in California, and Ray Kroc saw the McDonald's store when he was selling ice cream milkshake machines, and he saw the potential there. Well, they grew it to a few stores. But the McDonald brothers, they weren't interested in franchising. They didn't have the skills and abilities. They had the skills and abilities to cook hamburgers and create a system for cooking fast food.
That was the thing they were noted for, was the system they created was so effective and so efficient. But until they didn't want to take it any further, did they?
No, they were satisfied with us creating that system.
Yeah.
Ray Kroc saw it, and he saw it as something to build on, to build a big organization. And you'll see some things. There may have been some shady things that he did.
Yeah, I watched the Ray Kroc movie. I kind of got
so-
a new light on Ray Kroc.
But with everyone, everyone has their demons.
Yeah.
But what he did do effectively was introduce franchising to the McDonald's.
Yeah.
And brought through his ability to do that, he grew McDonald's from a few stores to now there's the billboards say billions and billions served.
Yeah. It's and if you watch the movie, you're going to find out that Ray Kroc went about some things. If the movie's true.
Yeah, if it's true.
If it's true, that he had some shady deals, but the principle was this. Here was a system that was so efficient, effective, and it was stuck right there in this little spot in California, and they didn't want to get rid of it. They didn't want to franchise it. They didn't want to share it with the world, and they were limiting thousands, now probably millions of people having a part in that and having jobs, businesses that are flourishing. Well, the world wouldn't be the same without McDonald's, would it?
And not only McDonald's, but look at the other franchises that have been built on that model.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, it was a
set
pioneer in that.
Yeah, at that time, franchises
field.
was a dirty word.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked at it as pyramid schemes and things like today, but it has really been really a great way to bring prosperity to a lot of people.
It has been.
Yeah.
And whatever you accomplish will be restricted or propelled by your leadership ability, and that and that's saying that not only is it a lid, but it's also going to be a magnet pulling you up as you increase your leadership ability.
Right.
And then we go to living the law of the lid.
Well, there's some things we can do, Bill, to live it out. And first thing, I want everybody to understand, and it took me a while to really buy into this, but experience is not the best teacher. If I live to be 100 years old, I've really just lived a small amount of time in the big scheme of things. And I can only learn so much through personal experience. So we really need to evaluate not our only experience, but the experience of others. And we can multiply our growth if we open up our hearts and minds to learn from experienced people. And I'm not talking about people who are still continue to fail and not really succeeding at what they want to succeed at, but there's plenty of folks out there, books, tapes, now there's YouTube, and there's all kinds of ways to hear people talk about experiences they had that can save us days, weeks, months, maybe even years.
Yeah, an important thing you said there was evaluating.
Yeah.
I mean, we can have experience and repeat it 20 times over the years, and then we have 1 year of experience repeated 20 times.
Yeah.
If we don't evaluate that and improve on it each year.
I love the story that John told about when he started out. He was in school and he got a job at a meat packing plant, and he didn't particularly care for the job, but he wanted a job. And there was an old fellow there that really got on to John. It had been there for years and years, and I forget the guy's name, and it doesn't really matter. But the principle was he kind of scolded John. He says, "Why are you learning all that stuff?" He said, "If you learn more of that, they're going to expect more out of you." And this guy had been doing one job for 20 years, and he really didn't like his job so much. And that is a mindset that people have. For some reason, we're afraid to learn things because maybe more might be expected out of us. But we're never going to move forward if we don't learn those things and move forward. We can stay stuck, like you said, doing the same thing for 20 years, have 20 years experience of doing the very same thing. And that's not what we want. So we need to invest in training for ourselves, and if you're a leader, for your organization. And this is a big deal. I've been around the retail world and the business world all my life, really. And I've seen programs roll in, programs roll out. Some of them stick, most of them don't. And we really have to have a system in our organization that says, we're going to learn something that's wrapped around our core values and our mission about the product and the service we're trying to provide. We're always going to be learning new ways and be innovative and really find things that are value-based rather than just method-based. So that's how we develop our soft skills when we look on the inside and learn how to be better people that serve other people. Our products and services will always improve.
Yeah, and when you're talking about training, one of the important things about that is, I read a figure that most companies, large companies, devote 3% of their budget to training.
Yeah.
So as individuals, if you want to earn $100,000, you should devote 3% of $100,000 to training yourself each year.
To your own personal. Yeah, I think Brian Tracy gives that number.
That's Brian Tracy's number.
And it's really true. I mean, attend seminars, attend webinars, whatever it takes to continually grow. We can all afford to spend an hour or two a week learning something new about ourselves and discovering what we need to do. So that means maybe get yourself a professional coach or a mentor or someone that who's looking to pour into people. There's plenty of folks out there that will give you the time of day if you respect their time and come prepared to learn.
Yeah.
Bring a notebook and a pencil and ask good questions. And when you find a seasoned veteran, they're going to pour into you because nobody likes to waste their time, but they like to share with people who's going to use it. So respect the mentor and the coach's time and come prepared. So join a mastermind group or a focus group. We do that here at the church, here at Rhema Christian Center, and we've done it outside the church too. But we'll pick a book and a topic, and we'll get together and we'll discuss those chapters. And a lot of lives have been changed by that, mine for one. And so that's real critical that you find a group of like-minded people that are trying to move forward and grow. It's not always easy. You got to look, got to make the effort, don't you? What about stretching ourselves, Bill? What do you think about that?
Well, that's something we got to do. You're talking about those 5 levels. Each time you move up into a level, you're moving into an area we're not going to be comfortable in.
Yeah.
And that's where the growth is going to happen, because if we're comfortable in it, that means we've already mastered that.
Yeah.
And so we need to stretch into areas that we haven't yet mastered, and those are going to be new, they're going to be different, and as the way we've evolved, new and different are not things that we actually may enjoy all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes
they come uncomfortable.
Sometimes you got to get your hands dirty a little
That's
bit.
right.
Sometimes, don't you? So, this is the thing I always remind people too is, get out of your comfort zone. Stay in your strength zone. Now, if you don't know what your strength zones are, that's the place to start. Find out what your strengths are. Find out what your core values are, and improve in those areas. And the movement will be productive, it'll be satisfying and rewarding. And then when you got to get your hands dirty, you won't mind so bad because this is going to make you improve. But we don't like getting our hands dirty doing things we don't like or that we're not passionate about. So think about that. Now, what should we do when we find a lid lifter, Bill?
Well, the thing is, find someone who is a lid lifter, who raises people up. Write out some of their qualities.
Yeah.
You start identifying what are the things that make them a lid lifter.
Yeah.
Because and then you can emulate those things. Because until you see what they are and you're intentional about finding them, you're not going to be able to. It's like evaluating experience. You're not going to know what to do with it.
Yeah. And to tell you the truth, it may be difficult to find a lid lifter, a person who intentionally wants to raise other people up, because we've all got egos. We've all got our own subconscious fears, and sometimes we're afraid that we might lift someone up. But if you don't have one in your life, why don't you be one? That's the challenge I lay to you. And that's how I felt for most of my life. I had some leaders who added value to me, but I would get to the place where I felt like they were holding me down and they didn't really want to help. They were either threatened or afraid. And and I was a little bit of a redneck too, so I didn't have the greatest personality, but I wanted to do what was right and I wanted to grow. But most of the time I felt like I had someone holding their hand on my head. And that's the day I decided I'm going to be a lid lifter. So that's why Bill and I are here today. We want to lift your lid. And if you don't have one in your life, be one. Change the world by that way. Just make a choice to be a lid lifter and start to grow. So make a stop doing list, Bill. Talk to me about that statement a little bit.
I think one of the things that John Maxwell says is the first thing in setting priorities is to stop doing the things we should not be doing. And that means that, there's 24 hours in a day, and it doesn't matter who you are, how productive you are, you still have those 24 hours. You don't have any more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And if you do things that seem to be urgent but don't contribute to the effectiveness of the organization, if you do things that aren't effective in raising your own lid, that's time spent that's not going to be able to be captured doing those important activities.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that those important activities don't need to be done, but it comes to delegating, identifying who the strong people are to do those activities, and get them empowered to do those.
That's critical. Finding those people that you can pour into, empower them so they can do it. And that means we, as a leader, do have to remove some things from our lives. And if we find ourselves doing things that that can be solved at a different level, then we need to delegate them out. And we don't delegate without empowerment. Delegation without empowerment breeds frustration. If we give somebody a job to do and we don't empower and give them the tools to do it, it's going to cause that person to be frustrated. The number one reason people leave people is because they didn't get trained well. And you think, well, I don't know about that. Well, I know. I've been in the business long enough to know that when we don't train people and make them feel confident in what they're doing, they do not like to come to work and feel a lack of confidence or that their job doesn't matter, that they don't matter. So proper training is empowerment. That's what we need to do for them. So as you remove those distractions, make sure you're not dumping them off on somebody just to get that off past the buck. Empower your folks to do that, and they'll probably do it better than you can.
Yeah.
Won't they? All right, we'll talk a little bit about leading on the third phase here, leading others to the law of the lid. And Bill, there's some questions that we should ask and answer for ourselves. And tell us about what this first question
Okay,
is.
so what organizations or teams do you know that did not achieve great results due to not learning, living, and leading others with the law of the lid? And these are, like what organizations can you see that made it to a certain point and then they didn't increase their leadership ability, or the people within the organization didn't increase their leadership ability? And I'll go back to the example of McDonald's brothers and Ray Kroc.
Yeah.
If Ray Kroc hadn't stepped in, we wouldn't know what McDonald's is today. But it would just be a chain of restaurants that probably have 4 or 5 restaurants that probably went out of business after
The family
McDonald brothers died off.
Yeah.
Or retired. So that's not, that would be an example hypothetically of of organization that didn't do that.
Yeah.
It could be Kodak Film Company.
Who's Kodak?
Who's Kodak? Kodak's actually the company that invented digital photography,
Oh, yeah.
but they wanted to stay number one in the film industry. Well, there is no film industry anymore, to be not a consumer film industry.
Yeah.
So Kodak is probably bankrupt by now and has been sold off.
Yeah.
I mean, they were the number one film company.
That's the ones that we used
20 years ago.
to snap a picture, wasn't it? And it would come out
Had
the
to
bottom.
send it. No, you had to send it off and get it developed.
Send it off. That was Polaroid did.
Polaroid did.
So Polaroid kind of got ahead of Kodak on that too, didn't they?
Yeah, they got ahead of them,
Yeah.
but there was still enough room in it for specific film applications. But digital, took all of that.
Yeah.
And
But
Kodak.
Polaroid was getting ahead of the game, though, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah.
But Kodak actually invented that.
Yeah.
Or a Kodak employee patented the first digital process.
Yeah.
But they didn't want it because it was a threat to film.
They thought they were going to lose money on it, didn't they?
But they didn't realize how big a threat to film it
Yeah.
was.
So they didn't grow.
No, they didn't grow.
They stayed, protected their turf, and now, who's Kodak?
Who's Kodak? It's like the Swiss watchmaker.
All right. The second question we should ask is, how much would you and your organization benefit if your team was raising up other leaders? Now think about that. If you did a hire, especially your hires of folks that were going to work right around you, and if you told them, I want you trained, but I want you to train somebody to replace your job because I got plans for you to move you up over here. So I need this person that you're going to train to be able to do this job as good or better than you, so I can move you on here. I've got another division, another department that I want you to lead and I want you to grow with. I'm hiring leaders to raise up leaders. How much more effective do you think companies would be if they'd have that?
Much, geometrically more effective.
Yeah.
It's not that you're empowering other people and training them to do things so that you can start sitting back and sipping pina coladas on the beach. It's so that you can go do things that are even
More productive.
more productive.
Yeah.
And
A dream,
Yeah.
a cast vision,
Move forward.
find new exploits. I think about this in raising children too. Now I was the oldest of 4 kids, and I had 2 brothers and a sister. And I was the oldest. I was the boss. I was the leader. I was a tyrant. I was an absolute tyrant. I was a jerk because I didn't want to be in charge. I wanted to be a kid too. But if I was going to be in charge, they were going to do what I told them to do. So we fought a lot. And I think back on that, and not to, have regrets about it, but I wanted to learn something from that. But what if I was a parent and I had children like that, and I had an older child or a couple older children, and I would tell them, you're the leaders, and I want you to be good leaders, because you got brothers and sisters that I need you to help care for, not just babysit and watch, but I need you to raise them up to be leaders too. So I've got a challenge for you. I want you to be the best leader you can be, so you can help them be the best leaders they can be. You think
Yeah.
that would make a difference?
That would.
It
I
would,
mean,
wouldn't
it'd be something.
So think about that as a parent. Think about that in your classrooms as a teacher. Pull those students up to have that inclination to do the right things, and let them know, I'm raising you up not to be the boss of this class, but to be the leader of this class, to serve this class, so that everybody in here can serve and lead. How much of a difference would it make? That's the challenge. I lay that gauntlet down. All right, so we have to remember that what leadership is. What is it, Bill?
Leadership is influence, and it's nothing more, nothing less than just plain old influence.
Influence. Yeah. If you think you're the leader and you don't have anybody following you, what are you probably doing, Bill?
You're taking a walk.
Just taking a
Taking
hike,
a-
aren't you? All right, so we must remember this too. Leaders know the way, they go the way, and Bill,
They show the way.
They show the way. So we have to go first. We have to be the pioneers, so to speak, and we have to find ways. Sometimes I call it digging a well. If you don't have a leader in your life that's influencing and impacting you, dig a well. Get down in there and find that knowledge and that wisdom, and start digging and dig your own well, so that ones coming after you can drink from your well. And that's why we dig our wells, isn't it? I drank from my dad's well for years, but I had to leave home and dig my own well so that my kids can operate from my wisdom. But if I'm still operating on my dad's well, and my kids had to go to my dad's well, I've just bypassed and forfeited my influence of my children, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah. So an action plan, Bill. Tell us something we need to do for this action plan as we get ready to close out here.
Well, an action plan is just, turning your knowledge into results. And to do that, you need to first know yourself. Know what your vision is, what your values are, what's your mission, what are your strengths and weaknesses, what are the things you need to do, and what are the things you need to find other people to do for you.
We don't have too many comments on here, but we got Betty Stanley Flowers, who joined us. Hello, Betty. It's good to have you. Hopefully, we've got some other folks watching in the background too. But sometimes we get carried away in the lesson. We don't look over and see the comments. It's not intentional. But leave us your comments. I'll respond to them all after the show, or if I catch them during the show, we'll respond to them. So we need to grow ourselves and develop the qualities that we want to pass on, don't we?
Yes.
And finally, we need to find somebody we trust and ask them what areas that we need to grow in. That is the scariest thing in the world, to walk up to somebody and say, tell me what my problem is. Tell me the truth about me and what I'm doing that's hurting other people or hurting my own growth. Scary times.
And you have to be really trustworthy. Not only do you need to trust them, but you have to be trustworthy.
Yeah.
That they know that you're not going to
Defend yourself
and react badly to
yeah, I mean, so a lot of folks will tell you, but they're afraid of your response. So my suggestion is, ask somebody that you know's got your back, that really cares about you, and ask them, what 3 things about myself do I need to change right away? And tell me, I'm going to be big about it, and I'll promise you I won't defend myself, but go off and think about it. And if you really want to grow, go find your worst enemy. They see it right off the bat, and they won't cut any.
No,
they won't pull any punches, and so you got to be ready to receive that without getting offended. So, but you know what? It is a great way to propel yourself forward, because you got something to think about, something you need to grow on. Then you start finding those tools and resources and people to add value to you to help you grow. Well, it's time to go, and we're so great. Get the book, man. It's a great book. It'll change your life. Read it. Outside the Bible, let it be your daily Bible for a while, and learn those principles. You will absolutely love John's stories. He's got close to 50 years of experience in teaching. He wrote 83 books on leadership, and this is his core book on leadership, and personal growth. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week, Thursday at noon, for law number 2, the law of influence.
Good afternoon.
Have a great week.